Hello, I'm State Representative Janine Nodder, and this is Chattin' with Janine. My special guest this week needs no introduction. She was the Attorney General, she was a United States Senator, and now she's our gubernatorial candidate for governor, Kelly Ayotte.
Thanks, Janine. Awesome to be with you, and it's always fun to be on this show.
Well, welcome back. I know it's been a while. You were on at the beginning of the campaign season.
Right, in the primary, at the beginning, I think toward the beginning of the primary, and we had a great discussion then, and now we're, only 30 days till the general election, so this is an important election for New Hampshire.
A very important election, and there's very many issues that are hot tickets.
Yes,
so I thought maybe we should go over some of them, starting with keeping our communities safe.
That is so important. As you know, I served as Attorney General, and then I was a murder prosecutor before that. So having handled very difficult criminal cases, I've worked closely with law enforcement. I'm blessed in this campaign to have the endorsement of the New Hampshire Troopers, also the New Hampshire Police Association, and several other police associations, including the Manchester Patrol Supervisors and the Nashua Patrolmen. And right now, in terms of law enforcement, we're down 64 troopers. We're corrections officers close to 50% down. Manchester, Nashua, they've been down about 20 officers. So recruitment and retention of our police officers is really a priority of mine in this campaign. And making sure that the retirement system's competitive for our police and fire so that we can recruit and retain great officers, but also making sure we have the right laws in place. And I know you've worked on this, Janine, but some of the changes that were made to the bail law several years ago created a revolving door that was dangerous for our communities. And I know there were some changes made this legislative session, but I think we might have to make further changes. That would be important because as I'm looking at where we've been on this, I did a ride-along with the Manchester Police Department, great young officer. His finger was almost gnawed to the bone.
Oh.
Awful. And he lost 6 months of work from someone who was out on bail that shouldn't have been. Repeat offenders. Nashua, same thing. 2 officers assaulted. They're in the hospital. Before they get out of the hospital, the man who assaulted them is back on the streets. So that's making sure that this bail law keeps people off the streets that shouldn't be when they're pending trial. So I know the legislature's working on it, but I'm going to push hard on that.
That is one of our priorities.
I know it is. And the other priority is fentanyl dealers. Mm-hmm. There was a proposal in the House to establish minimum mandatories we're not talking about the people that need the help. Let's get the help and the treatment for the people who are struggling with addiction. But we have high-level dealers and gang members who are trafficking this poison into our state from Lowell and Lawrence and other places, and we should have some of the toughest penalties in the country. We should have those minimum mandatories. And recently in the legislature, the Democrats said no to all of that. That was in September. Study committee, as I understand it, there was a meeting, and the Democrats said no on that.
And the drug traffickers are protected in sanctuary cities.
Oh, yeah, in sanctuary cities, of course. We can't have those sanctuary policies here in New Hampshire because we've seen what happens in Massachusetts. Like, they spend $1 billion housing illegal immigrants. If our law enforcement can't cooperate with federal authorities, then it's hard to solve cases and to keep people safe. And I would just say this isn't a partisan issue. This is just a fundamental issue about our quality of life in New Hampshire. And we've often been ranked the safest state in the nation, but we need to recruit and retain those police officers to continue to do that and have the right laws in place.
I agree with you. And I have sponsored or co-sponsored banning sanctuary city policies for years now, and I can never get the support of the Democrats. And the Libertarians have also been an issue.
Right. Yeah, it's both sides, right, on that. So
yeah.
I appreciate your leadership on that, Janine, because it is important.
And I've been down to the border, the southern border, twice now, and I've seen for myself how unprotected the border is and how easy it is for the drug dealers to come over the border.
Yes, that has been.
I've talked to the sheriffs and the border patrol down there, and it's a serious,
I've been to the border
issue.
too. It's a real issue. It's important. And you've been championing these issues for years, so I appreciate your leadership. And you've always been a friend of law enforcement.
Yes. I have, thank you.
And, you know,
you have
Merrimack PD does a great job.
You know, when you were talking about keeping the community safe, I remembered that you were on Merrimack TV years ago when you were the Attorney General. You were on Pete Hinkle's show, Peyton's Place.
Oh,
yes, he's
yeah.
still around, still lives in
I
Merrimack.
know Pete is such a great guy.
And I remember watching that show and saying, wow, how did he get her on her show? And
and you know, Pete's daughter, Holly, and I, we went to college together, so I know his daughter well, too.
she's in town this week.
Yeah, oh, that's great.
I have housing. Housing is a huge issue.
Very big issue. As you know, important economic issue for our families because we just don't have enough housing. Really, I hear this from employers. I hear this from families that want to keep their young people here. And also making sure that seniors can stay in their homes because with rising property taxes, seniors are often crunched on this issue. So we need to build more housing of all forms, whether it's single-family homes, apartments, manufactured housing, and then also address the issue of ADUs, so families can stay
Accessory
together.
dwelling units,
yeah. Let's keep families together, right? So you want to care for an elderly parent, or you want to care for, have your children there to be able to help them. That's a great thing for New Hampshire to keep families together.
I've been thinking about that myself. My in-laws are aging, and when they're done with using the ADU, if we can get one built, then we can move
Well,
into
there
it.
you go. I know we're all going to need that. And so one thing I'd like to do is, of course, the state has the state process of approval, but also the local process. First of all, the local voice is so important. It's part of New Hampshire. I respect that local decision making. But the state piece, how can we make that better? And as I'm traveling around the state, I'm hearing that our permitting process at the state level is not efficient the way it should be. To get anything built in the state, you have to get approval from a minimum usually of DOT, DES, Fish and Game. And sometimes they don't talk to each other.
Fish and Game.
Yeah, for species. There's an impact on species. So that is an added approval that's been part of the process more recently. So I want to make sure that process, instead of things getting hung up in one agency or the other, we'll make sure this process is efficient, it's transparent. It should be a 60-day process where all the agencies are communicating together. So we're going to make sure that happens, because if projects languish at the state, they may not happen. So we need to make sure that the state is doing a good job on that approval process, and then partner with communities. So communities are going to decide, make their local planning and zoning boards will make the decisions for their community. But how can we partner with communities on issues like infrastructure, to whether it's roads or whether it is water or sewer, if they're willing to build more workforce housing, that's where the state can partner with them.
All right, now my mind's going in two different directions, and I'm trying to decide which way to go. So I'm going to start with tiny houses.
Yes.
You know Matt Mayberry.
I do know Matt, yes.
And I had a conversation with him once. It's been a few years now. He had an idea of turning old hotels into tiny little houses.
Okay.
And a lot of young people today are minimalists.
Yes.
You know, they like little houses, little tiny places. And has that come up in any conversations about?
It has not, although, Jenny Rhodes in the western part of the state, she is also a champion of tiny houses too, and making sure that we have the ability to build those houses, like in terms of the regulatory piece. So something I'd be willing to look at as governor, if that, gives a young person a place to live and keeps them in our state, that's a very positive thing. And I will say, by the way, I saw Matt recently, and I'm very honored to have the endorsement of the New Hampshire Home Builders Association. And they understand that I will partner with them to make sure that we're building more homes in New Hampshire.
Okay, and when you said roads, I'm like, ooh, that was a trigger. Merrimack-specific road question.
Yes.
All right, we had tolls in Merrimack, and the up in the State House, we never had support from the fellow legislators to get rid of the tolls in Merrimack because once upon a time the town wanted tolls, but they were supposed to go away after 30 years, and they didn't. So it's a long story about how
I
each got.
understand that.
Dick Hinch was a big part of getting rid of those tolls.
Dick was amazing on that.
And so now the legislature has stuck it to Merrimack by trying to give us the upkeep of Continental Boulevard. It's a very expensive and specific kind of paving material to pave that connector road from 101A to the Everett Turnpike. The paving for that portion of the road costs more than the paving budget for the entire town. So that's one of my biggest
It's
issues.
also a very busy road.
Yes,
and it's
several
also
communities use it.
a lot of communities use that area. I think the state should keep the responsibility for that and
Yes,
should
thank
not
you.
turn that over to Merrimack.
So we have your support.
You have my
Yes.
support.
Thank you.
And working with you and Maureen Mooney and others, Bill Boyd, I look forward to working with you on that issue.
Thank you. I campaign with Maureen, and not just because our names rhyme. Yeah.
It's because you're friends, which
Yes.
is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, she's my buddy. Energy costs.
Energy costs are way too high in New Hampshire. You know that. Some of our bills are some of the highest in the country. And so the way I see this issue, number one, we can't go the way of some of our neighbors who have added mandates to energy bills that will drive up costs for consumers. So as governor, I'm going to be focusing on ratepayers, and we also need more energy supply
Yes.
in general of all forms. And so I'm an all the above energy person, whether more natural gas, renewables, whether solar, hydro, but also positioning New Hampshire for new technologies. We have the nuclear plant in Seabrook. I just visited the other day and had a chance to shake the hands of many of the workforce there.
Zero carbon emissions with nuclear
Zero
energy.
carbon. But there's new technology coming online, whether it's hydrogen or small modular nucler reactors. And
it's
making sure,
recyclable rods.
right, making
Yeah.
sure New Hampshire is positioned early for some of those to adopt some of those new technologies. Because can you imagine these small modular nuclear reactors, much less material, much safer. They serve a smaller region. So, example, we could put one up in Berlin, we could put one in this area. You want to put them in places that you could produce your own energy. You can do it very safely. And we're not there yet in terms of this being something states are able to put in place now. But if we think ahead on these things, we can be an early adopter and drive down energy costs. It's clean energy. It's a good thing for New Hampshire because we're so dependent right now on other people sending us energy, and that drives up costs.
Yep, I agree with you 100% on that.
Yeah.
Taxes is a huge issue.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, it's the New Hampshire advantage. New Hampshire has a real advantage that we have no income tax, no sales tax, no estate taxes. The legislature, I know you worked on this, Janine, to make business taxes competitive when you dropped the business taxes in 2011.
Yeah, House Bill 1221 was
That's right.
Yeah.
And what has that caused? That's caused more businesses to grow, more business revenue because you drop taxes. So protecting our New Hampshire advantage is critical. And also, I think a very big difference between me and my opponent in this race, Joyce Craig, who's running for governor on the Democrat end. Every year that she was mayor, she proposed a tax increase. She proposed overriding the tax cap in Manchester. And then also recently, she has said she wants to bring back the interest and dividends tax, which is essentially an income tax.
Yes, it is.
It's an income tax on retirees, on small businesses, on people saving for retirement. And so she said, I want to increase taxes by $160 million. So I think this is a fundamental difference in this race. I'm going to protect and defend the New Hampshire advantage, keep taxes low. I'm also going to be looking out for taxpayers when it comes to making sure the state isn't passing on burdens to local communities that drive up their local taxes. And I know that you in the legislature worked, for example, to return more money to Merrimack by increasing the rate of the rooms and meals tax that local communities got. So that issue has allowed the more money to flow locally, and I hope that local communities will use that for tax relief on property taxes, because I know this is a very big issue too, that property taxes, especially for our seniors, they're challenged in their homes with assessments going up. So as governor, I need to be looking for ways always to think about the taxpayer first and what working families are experiencing. And I think it's a big contrast between me and my opponent, who's, her first solution to things are raise taxes.
Raise taxes. Throw money at every problem.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm the opposite of that. I think we need to live within our means.
Oh, absolutely. You know, in the 14 years that I've been a representative, I keep hearing over and over again, oh, it's just a little tax. It's the price of a cup of coffee. No one will notice. I'm like, oh, then why can't we reverse that and reduce things by a cup of coffee at a time?
I'm with you, Janine. It's like a cup of coffee, but have you bought a cup of coffee lately? Like
no.
It's getting more expensive, right?
It is.
And inflation has caused the rising costs for every family. And so when you think about the impact of inflation, we're all, families are paying more for food. They're paying more for gas and energy, all those costs. So the last thing that the state government should do is pass on additional costs to those families who are already struggling.
Oh, absolutely. Second Amendment.
Yes. New Hampshire is a state that respects people's constitutional rights. I certainly strongly support our Second Amendment rights, and I think it's important. It's part of who we are.
Veterans, this is one of the reasons I support you. Well, there's many reasons, but when people ask me, okay, why did you pick Kelly over others? I said, well, there's a number of reasons, but let me tell you, my sons are in the military, and when they were serving overseas, you were our U.S. Senator at the time, and I remember talking to you, and I mean, it was a noisy place, and we're off in the corner, and I'm telling you about their substandard living conditions.
Yes.
There was mold, black mold on the wall, and my son was cleaning it off with no mask.
I remember this well.
Yes. Well, I do too, because I heard you on the news fighting for our military, are over there serving overseas, and you even used the words that I used. And then there was change, and they got better living conditions over there. So thank you. As a mother, thank you.
Thank you, Janine, and thank you for your son's service and what they've done for the country. And I remember that fight well, because I served on the Armed Services Committee. When you raised that issue to me, I took it during a hearing to the leaders of the military in our country, and I said, why are our men and women in uniform, from New Hampshire, many of them, like, why are they subject to mold and we're making them sick with their quarters? So I was glad that they took action on that. But I'm also part of a military family.
Yes,
my husband.
Thank you to your daughter.
Yeah, thanks. And my husband was an A-10 pilot, so he's a fighter pilot. And then, of course, our daughter's at the Air Force Academy. And following in her dad's footsteps, she hopes to be a fighter pilot too. And she just got her glider wings, so we're really proud of her.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
One of my younger sons is a captain. He's a navigator.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love that.
Air Force.
Good for him.
I wanted to say how generous New Hampshire is. When one of my sons was overseas around Christmas time, I just put out a message on Facebook. I said, hey, my son's overseas. If anybody wants to send a package to his unit, message me. The response was so overwhelming.
That's awesome.
He said, Mom, we have packages coming every week.
I love that.
Random packages from people in New Hampshire, and the pictures, there was such a wonderful photo gallery of all these things that people from New Hampshire sent to my son's unit. And then they saved all the boxes, and on Christmas Eve they had a big bonfire.
Oh, that's cool.
Empty boxes.
And I think we have a lot of veterans in New Hampshire. New Hampshire is definitely a very, pro-military state. And we need to make sure New Hampshire is the most veteran-friendly state in the country. And there are efforts that are happening right now. For example, the Veteran Campus in Franklin is a wonderful opportunity. Easter Seals and Veterans Count. I served on the board of Veterans Count over the last several years when I've been out of office. And Easter Seals is making that campus, with the state's help and other partners at the table, some housing for our veterans, but also the veteran service organizations can use that campus, including like healthcare, activities for our veterans. It's going to be an awesome place for our veterans. So things like that are happening in our state. And I want nothing more than, if you're a veteran, to thank you, to make sure that we're serving you well. And then I'd love to have more veterans move to New Hampshire.
Me too. All right. I have to ask this question because the Democrats are running on it. Abortion. The current law is any abortion on demand up to 6 months. Mm-hmm. Okay, that 24 weeks is 6 months.
Right.
That's 2/3 of the way into the pregnancy.
Yes.
That's a very long time to do what you want to do. And there's exceptions in the law.
Right, for the last 3 months, yeah.
Right. And they're I know that they're beating you up about this. I'm getting beat up about it as well.
Well, it's really unfortunate. My opponent in this governor's race is really misleading women in New Hampshire. about my position, about what our law is. And so I'm glad you asked me the question, because you've already pointed out quite clearly what the Supreme Court did is return this issue to the states. And then New Hampshire decided, the legislature passed the law, and that law in New Hampshire gives women the freedom to obtain an abortion for any reason up to the 6 months of pregnancy. But in the last 3 months of pregnancy, if God forbid a woman has a medical emergency or her baby suffers from a fatal fetal anomaly, she is still able to get an abortion in New Hampshire. And what's sad to me is that they're misleading people, they're misleading women on this important issue. And to me, as a woman, as the mother of a daughter, of course women's health care is important to me, of all forms. And preventative care, also thinking about, making sure one of the other lies they've been kind of pushing out about me too is IVF treatment. I fully support IVF treatment because I know friends who have used IVF treatment to have a family. It's been miraculous for them. And so New Hampshire is actually, as a state, even though the Federal Affordable Care Act doesn't cover IVF treatment, New Hampshire legislators already voted to say you have to cover IVF treatment in an insurance plan. So we've already looked ahead on this in New Hampshire and said, yes, IVF is important for families. We want people to grow their families. So I appreciate your asking me, because we want people to know what the facts are. And the facts are that, our law up to 6 months of pregnancy, and then exceptions in the last 3 months for women who want to obtain an abortion. And then also, IVF treatment in New Hampshire. We've required insurance companies to cover it, and I support it.
I know that you've been just campaigning every day, and I can't imagine what your schedule is, but you have to go over the entire state.
Yes.
And when you go to places and you meet with the voters, what are they asking you that I didn't bring up today?
Well, the other issue that I hear about, so we talked about housing, public safety, energy costs, but I'm also asked about childcare costs. And, as I know that the legislature in the last biennium expanded access to the childcare scholarship for families that can't afford that, I think we can make the administration of that scholarship more efficient and better. I also think that, elevating childcare, making sure that we're giving training to our childcare workforce and those who are running childcare facilities, both through our community colleges and our university system, it's really important. And then empowering employers that want to add childcare, and local nonprofits. Like, for example, in Nashua, the Boys and Girls Club has added childcare to its services. And so there's some regulatory things we can do to help them better do that. So I look forward to addressing that, working with you on important issues like housing, childcare, energy costs, and maintaining the New Hampshire advantage, because that's critical.
Yeah, I put that at the top of my list.
It's always on the top. That's part of being New Hampshire, right? Mm-hmm. The live free or die state.
Right, and I love your slogan, don't mass it up.
Exactly. Yes. I will say, Joyce Craig spent a lot of time campaigning with the governor of Massachusetts, Maura Healey.
Oh, yeah, I read she's coming up to our state.
Oh, she's coming up. But you know what? I'm really proud to have the endorsement of Governor Sununu. He's the New Hampshire guy. This is a New Hampshire race, and this is about the future of our state.
Mm-hmm. All right, Kelly, in the last few minutes of the show, I'm going to give the camera to you to give your speech to the town of Merrimack.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your listening today. I would love to have your vote on November 5th. This is an important election for the future of our state. New Hampshire has been on a strong path under Governor Sununu's leadership in the last 8 years, and with the help of great legislators like Janine Notter and others. And we want to continue to protect and defend the New Hampshire advantage. We don't want to go down the road of other states like Massachusetts that have enacted higher taxes. The people in Mass have less freedom when it comes to their constitutional rights and, the things that they do every day. So protecting and defending New Hampshire and making New Hampshire stronger is why I'm running for governor. And the challenges that we have, we need to take on: the housing issue, working with the private sector, making sure that we build more housing that's affordable in this state. Second, energy costs. We don't want to go down the road where we're adding mandates and we're driving up energy costs. So I'll be focusing on ratepayers when it comes to energy costs. And then finally, I would just say there's a huge contrast in this race between where I stand and where my opponent Joyce Craig stands. Every year that she was in office in Manchester, she proposed a tax increase. I will not be doing that as governor. I'm going to protect our New Hampshire advantage, and I will make sure that we do not increase taxes. We will not do that under my watch. Joyce Craig was mayor of Manchester. You may have seen she unfortunately failed that city, and we can't have that type of failed leadership in Concord. I recently had a business meeting with business owners in downtown Manchester, and this is what I heard. She was inaccessible, she did not listen, and that unfortunately she did not focus enough on public safety. We can't have that type of leadership in Concord, or we'll kiss the New Hampshire advantage goodbye. So I'm asking for your vote on November 5th. I will work as hard as I can every day on behalf of the people of this state, and I'll be listening to you to earn your support. I appreciate the people of Merrimack and the opportunity to be with you today.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Janine.
Did a good job. Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Good luck in November.
Let's go do it.
Let's win.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you.